There's no backing down. Yeah, USC's 2025 recruiting class, they don't look or act like your typical freshman. They're ready to prove who they are.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, pick a platform, download it. However you listen to this show, watch it on YouTube. This show's always free. This show always appreciates your support. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Every year, high school kids, quote, they graduate, they transition into young men, quote, when they arrive at USC's campus. They're ready to start their freshman season, right? Turn the page, new chapter in the book of life. No longer kids, they're now young men on their own. So I watched last Friday's practice. That was day 3 of fall camp. We got to watch it from start to finish. It was one of those special days for the media. It was their first day in pads. They were in shells, just shoulder pads, shorts, helmets. You get it. But it was a fun watch, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. Also on this episode, during that practice, USC got their 33rd commitment out of the class of 2026. We're going to talk about Breck Kolojay in the second segment. And then I got my Monday Mailbag in that final segment of the show, which, stick around. There's some stuff in there from you guys. Gave me the answers you were looking for. And it actually ties back to last Friday's episode of Locked On USC. When I was talking about Jaden Mayava being stuck in neutral. Some of you don't understand wordplay. I'm here for you. I'll help you out. Anyways, all right. So, welcome back to another week of shows. As I mentioned, gave you the rundown what's happening. After watching Friday's practice session, there is so much to like, guys. Let me just tell you right now off the bat, there is a lot to look forward to this season, especially if if the ball bounces USC's way a couple of times. Get a little lucky. I'm not trying to get too far ahead, but man, this is a really competitive group. Even Coach Riley, he talked about the team's energy after practice. He said, quote, "It was really physical. They were eager to get in pads." I talked to Cam Fountain after practice, and I said, how do you guys kind of dial it back so you don't take it out on your teammates? First day in pads during fall camp, and he agreed. It's one of those things where the coaching staff talks just before practice. Hey, remember, we're all on the same team. That doesn't stop everybody from having a good time, being competitive, having a couple of kerfuffles, so to speak. We'll get into particulars, any details we were asked not to, but still I can give you a Cliff's Notes version of what I saw, and I think you're going to enjoy it as well. So, anyways, Coach Riley said they were, I knew they'd be ready. I think today, just want to keep them up, keep them from just killing each other. They did a good job of that. So, to what Cam Fountain was talking about. But here's what really caught my attention, opened my eyes. The freshmen. Oof. Remember during the summer, it was after spring camp, so I guess it would have been late spring, early summer. I told you about Coach Henney. He talked about Floyd Boucard. He said, quote, "He has elite feet. He's going to play on Sundays." I saw firsthand what Coach was talking about. I mean, literally, it was one of those things where you're just like, oh, wow. And he's still learning the game. So there was this one repetition, one-on-one type of stuff. If you ever watched, any of the 5-man, big men camps, basically you have offensive linemen lined up, and then a defensive lineman will take their turn, kind of doing the rodeo. They go down the line. It was something similar to that. Well, it was Floyd Boucard's turn. He was lined up over the center. Again, not going to tell you who he was going up against, but there was this one repetition where the guy he was going up against was just lunging at air. He literally he was reacting to a ghost. The entire practice field, players, coaches, media, anybody who was in attendance kind of let out one of those collective, oh my God. It was one of those types of things. So yeah, Floyd Boucard does not look like your typical freshman. From Montreal, Canada, somehow made his way down to Florida to play high school football. Oklahoma thought they had him. USC got him. He's good. I don't know why he's ranked so low in the recruiting service, but this is why it's all about coaching evaluation. What else did I see? So the offensive line, obviously, they're trying to get stuff figured out, especially with the whole DJ Wingfield situation. Coach Riley, he talked about during the Big Ten media days how he couldn't really fully address the situation. On Friday, he wanted to talk about DJ's mental state of mind. At first, Coach Riley didn't really want to dive into it, but then he kind of just, threw caution to the wind. And he said, look, he's not doing very good. I'm not supposed to comment on these things, but what's happening with that, and not just DJ, across the country, it just isn't right. I've never seen anything like it in all my years of coaching. I've been a part of a lot of different unique situations that come up, and this one's a new one. I know it's complicated. I'm not throwing huge shade at anyone. Sometimes you just got to do the right thing, though. At the end of the day, just do the right thing. That's, I think, what we're all asking for. There are situations like this all over the country. Nobody's trying to pull anything on anyone. These are extremely legitimate requests, end quote. So Coach Riley is like, you know what? These are just young guys who want to play. They're not trying to get over. They're not trying to sneak past anybody. They thought they legitimately had another year of eligibility left. And, the way the things have been going with appeals and getting approved, not approved, you're just trying to find that common denominator. And Coach Riley's just getting, frustrated with the whole situation. And I don't blame him. Excuse me. So again, Coach was pretty ticked off about the situation, but more importantly, he's concerned about DJ's state of mind. This is the type of thing that'll happen, and all of a sudden now you're stuck in limbo. And what do you do for the next 5-6 months? Obviously, you stay in shape, but that doesn't help. All of a sudden now you're going to class and you're thinking about, well, I want to be playing. You understand where I'm going with this. Anyways, so what does that mean for the offensive line? Well, Micah Benuelos is the next man up. And from what I saw, he was doing a pretty good job out there. Coach Riley talked about it. He said, quote, you can see the confidence really grow. He's getting a ton of reps right now. And so far, he's carrying over from that. He has a lot of power. He can really move people. He can really play behind his hips. Micah isn't the biggest guy in that room, but because of the way he positions himself, gets behind his hips, he plays with a lot of leverage. So I think that's what Coach Riley is referring to about, look, Micah's finally healthy. He's getting an opportunity. He's taking advantage of it. We'll see what happens. Fall camp again. When I go back out there for practice today, when you're watching this episode, I'll be out there in the morning. It'll be day 5. So whatever I can see, I'll bring back to the next episode of Locked On USC. Another freshman. Doesn't look like one at all. Not when you're 6'8", 370, 380 pounds. He doesn't act like one either. Very confident, very, very businesslike. So I told you about Floyd Boucard doing his one-on-one rep. Offensive line, Vicona, he was standing his ground in the same repetition line. He went up against 2 of the older guys, 2 of the vets who are going to be part of the 2-deep rotation. And he held his own. Once Elijah locks you up, game over. You can't bull rush him, and you better be able to get around him. Someone his size, he's got really good footwork. He does not have heavy feet. After practice, Braylon Shelby said he's the strongest offensive lineman on the team. And, if that's the case, imagine what he's going to be like next year as a sophomore after he's spent a full year in the program. Oof. And with Trumaine Carroll in charge of that, sign me up. Yeah, give me more. As I mentioned, Cam Fountain. I asked him about Elijah after practice, and he's like, that's my dog. That's my dog. He loves his temperament, his whole attitude. Doesn't back down. He's ready for the opportunity. Someone else, and this isn't a freshman, but it really caught my attention. I always considered Anthony Lucas more of a quiet introvert, not real loud. He's not going to be somebody who's going to go out of his way to, get under your skin. I saw a completely different side of him at practice. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. He was one of those high energy guys that Coach Riley was talking about. Uber competitive. Again, especially during those one-on reps. He wanted to make sure everybody on the offensive line knew who won and when they won. And if the defense won their rep, Anthony was letting everybody know about it. Sometimes they kind of had to hold him back a little bit. He was into it. Yeah, he was ready to cross the street. He was ready to get into it. Again, it was a lot. It was fun. It was team stuff. Nothing to get overly hyped or concerned about. But you know where I'm going with this. A lot of finger pointing, I guess is what I'm saying. A lot of talk, a lot of jawbone going on. Coach Rob Ryan, full of juice. Didn't have any of those. He didn't have one of those not safe for work environment types of rants going on, like he did on day one that I saw. But two quotes that really stood out when he was working with the linebackers. We play to play. That's what we do around here. In other words, this is business. We play football to play football. We don't play football to do anything else. And the one that I liked the most, and it was shades of Coach Vic So'oto, everything we do is violent. You want your defensive coaches and players thinking with a violent mindset. So, yeah, talk violent all you want. Absolutely. All right, like I said, I'm here at practice today, Monday, day 5. The team was actually in the Coliseum on Sunday for day 4. They were wearing shorts and shells again. We'll see what they're doing on day 5 here. I don't know if they're going to be full pads or not, but they're getting close. That acclimation period, that's what it's all about. Here's something else we're getting close to. The season kicking off. 26 more days, folks. Just 26 more days until USC beats the Bears. All right. 2 more segments. Like I said, we're going to talk about Breck Kola Jay, USC's newest commitment, and then we're going to wrap up the show with Monday's Mailbag. It's time to fuel up, and it's time to turn it up with the 5-hour energy transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, of course, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or you're making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest. Some days on the course, off the course, you just need that extra boost to kind of stay sharp, stay energized. Even if you're not an avid golfer, even if you suck at the game like I do, you know what? Sometimes you go out there with your friends, you have one of those miracle shots, right? I'm one of those grip it and rip it, hope for the best. I had this one time, I remember, some will call it a fluke, others, I don't know, I prefer to call it a well-calculated miracle. I remember this one shot out of the bunker, 30 yards away. Took out the wedge. I hit it. It gave me a 7 on a par 5. So for me, win-win. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavors give you the best parts of your clubhouse. Go to, and you don't have to start chasing down that beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, That's the number 5, ourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf, and you're going to receive 20% off your first order. This offer is not this out. In fact, let me say it this way. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order, and it cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders as well. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-hour energy shots today. So last Friday at practice, Coach Riley let the media watch the entire practice. Told you about that in the first segment. There's one caveat, and that's after the first 20 minutes, where we can film the conditioning session, the position groups when they break out and they start doing those individual drills by position groups. Once that 20-minute session was over, we had to put our phones and cameras away. Do not take them out. Do not look at them under any circumstance whatsoever. I mean, don't even look at your phone to see what time it is. That's how paranoid they were. Okay. They said, look, if you need to get on your phone, answer a text message, whatever, just walk through Goo Gate, do it outside the walls. Well, part of the challenge I was having is during that morning practice, USC was anticipating getting another football commitment for the class of 2026. I told you about it. It was going to happen. Interior offensive lineman Breck Kola Jay, IMG Academy, Keenyi Pepe's teammate. Well, it happened. And there's no way for me to track it or, get on social media and start blasting out all the news and all the information. Saying, yay, look, USC got another commitment, number 33. Remember, they're shooting for a class of 35. So who is Breck Kolojay? How did this all happen? Well, during the spring, USC was kind of playing from behind. Breck Kolojay, 4-star offensive lineman, IMG Academy. He had taken visits to Oklahoma, to Colorado, his home state, Ohio State, Miami, Georgia. He took his official visit to USC the weekend of June 17th to the 19th. And then I think he took another visit after that, maybe Tennessee. Anyways, that was his official visit. Well, this past Friday, he announced that he wants to be a Trojan. And as I mentioned, USC was playing from behind with this whole recruiting process. Back in June, everyone thought it was Miami, and then Georgia got involved late. USC was always involved, especially once Breck got out to USC for that. He came out during the spring. He checked out spring practice. I'll explain that here in a second. But during his announcement ceremony, he's sitting at the table. His teammate, Keenyi Pepe, is kind of standing off behind him to the left, arms crossed like this. Like, I know what's going to happen. You better do what I think you're going to do. Anyways, it was kind of cool having his teammate there. This is what Breck said, and how USC ended up winning him over. They constantly recruited me. The relationships I built with USC over the past couple of months were fantastic. It's just where my heart is at. I never made it about money or anything. Excuse me. But it's where I see myself. The opportunity in LA is pretty insane. It also allows me to be closer to home. As I mentioned, he's from the state of Colorado. We want to build USC up to a national championship, and we want to do that under Coach Riley. So he's from the state of Colorado. He plays his high school ball in Florida, IMG Academy. After listening to him talk, following his announcement, as I mentioned, spring practice also made an impression on him. I think that's when he figured out he was all in. He took his official visits, but I think that spring practice is what stuck in the back of his mind when it came time to make that final choice. He talked about his relationship with Coach Riley and Coach Zach Hansen, his position coach. Cool. With Coach Riley and their plan for me, it's really cool. They want me to play guard, but end up being a center. They just love the way I think and how I play play ball in terms of me being a student of the game, plus my physicality and dominance, I really trust in Zach Hansen. He's a younger O-line coach, but he has developed a couple of guys that are dominant in the NFL. I trust in Coach Riley's offense and the stuff he has and what he has planned for the future. End quote. Something else that played to USC's advantage. Mark Bowman, the tight end, modern day. Well, he was on the same official visit weekend. I'm not sure if it was the middle of the week or on the weekend. He was there with Breck Kolojay. It's significant because they both played football together as kids in their home state of Colorado. So obviously USC was using that to their advantage. And it wasn't just Mark Bowman, although he played a large role with the recruitment. There's a third person in the childhood friendship trio, another USC commit, Cannon Smith, offensive line. So you've got Kolojay, Bowman, Smith. They've all known each other since like the third grade. Now they're going to be playing together in college. WeUSC.com's Scott Schrader, he made the trip out to Florida for the announcement, and he had a chance to talk with Breck's dad, and he confirms that, yeah, Bowman, he had some pull. He played a role here. Something else Kolojay told Scott about why he chose USC. He talked about the vision. I really see something special with USC, especially with the recruiting class and me coming in with Bowman and Keenyi Pepe. Also, a couple of other guys that are from Colorado or that I know. I alluded to, Cannon Smith. It's special with Pep. Me and him have a really good relationship as we've played together for 3 years. I think there's a lot of nonverbal communication that goes with playing next to him, a trust that we've built together, end quote. In the end, Breck said he was looking for, I want to go where I feel most at home. Well, there you go. He said this, every school on my list has everything any player wants. I can go to the NFL from any school, so it will be about the heart. Some schools throw big numbers out in the NIL, and that is something my advisor, Cliff Hill, handles. But that will not be a huge factor for me. If you ball, you'll get paid, end quote. There you go. So, look, we know USC is playing the NIL game, and I'm sure USC had a really nice competitive offer for the young man. But it's nice to hear that, it's not the end-all, be-all. Here's what I like the most about Breck Kolojay. Besides his size, 6'4", 300-pounder, 300-plus pounds, whatever. He said this, and this is what I love. He said he wants to be a team captain at USC, I don't know, by his third year. I love hearing that. I mean, that might come off as an individual goal, but it's a team goal. I mean, it's about wanting to make the team better. When you're a team captain, there's a responsibility that comes with it. It's about your teammates wanting to gravitate towards you, that trusting you no matter what the situation. Being a team captain is something everybody should strive to be, because it means you're bought in, right? You understand what it's all about. It's team before individual. Breck already has all that going for him. I'm telling you, when you listen to this guy talk, very mature. And as I talked about in the first segment, USC's freshmen don't look or act like freshmen. Well, Breck's going to be another one of those guys, but he'll be a member of the class of 2026. All right, one more segment to go. We're going to do my Monday mailbag. Got a few questions we're going to go over. And let's check this out. We've been there. It's, we're coming to the end of summer. Or, you might want to get some tickets to some USC games. You get online, you log in, you're waiting in your spot, and all of a sudden you lose your spot and you're stressed out. You're like, man, I wanted to get those tickets. Now I got to start all over again. Well, if you're going to a concert or going to a USC football game, listening to music should be about making memories. Going to a football game should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets or football tickets faster and easier than ever. Seriously, did you know that prices will actually drop the closer you get to the start of a show, the start of a kickoff? That's because you can save up to 60% with their killer last-minute deals at Gametime. And if you ever wonder what your view's going to look like before you buy your ticket, don't worry about that. Their app shows you a panoramic seat view. There's no surprises. You know what you're going to be seeing before you pay. And with the Gametime guarantee, the price you see is the price you pay. There's no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and tickets to any game you want to go to with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. You're going to get $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It's time for my Monday mailbag. We've been making that a regular segment here now. It's starting to get a lot of questions. And, leading up to the start of the season, I anticipate even more once the schedule, kicks off. As I mentioned, 26 more days, folks. 26 more days until USC hosts Missouri State at the Coliseum. 4:30 p.m. kickoff. Beat the Bears. All right. So game number one, USC's going to have some new team captains, right? Of course they are. One of my show's everyday listeners, viewers, AJ Woodson, he asked me this following question. It's a great show, Mark. I agree. Thank you. Question, if you had to pick 4 captains on this 2025 Trojans team, who would you choose? You can choose 2 on defense, 2 on offense. I asked this question because I like what the new committed recruit, Breck Kolojay, said, that he'll be a captain for USC before he leaves. I like that attitude. Let me know before next week ends, please. Here you go. Beginning of the week. I love the question, AJ. And again, thank you for watching every day. If you are watching on YouTube, folks, and you haven't become an everyday subscriber, it's free. Click the red subscribe button. Get out of the way right now. Good, you're done. Smash that thumbs up. Click that bell notification so you don't miss an episode. This is the place to be. You get all your Trojan news and notes right here every day. All right, so let me remind everybody that last year, USC named new team captains ahead of each opponent. Coach Riley, he stated, and this was something he started last year, that you earn the opportunity to be a team captain each week. So if you remember, USC season opener last year, you had Miller Moss, Jonah Monheim, wide receiver Kyron Hudson, linebacker Easton Mascarenas Arnold, and his brother, safety Achille Arnold. Well, 2 of those guys, Easton and Achille, were transfers into USC last year. Jonah is now in the NFL. And the other 2, they've transferred. Yeah, Miller's at Louisville. Kyron, he's at Penn State. I think it's going to be interesting to see if Coach Riley carries that philosophy over into 2025, or does he go back to the traditional way of picking team captains? But to answer your question, AJ, there's a bunch of great candidates. However, I'm a huge fan of guys who have stuck it out. I've talked about, the 3 guys who have been around since the Clay Helton years: Lake McCree, Prophet Brown, Anthony Beavers. So if I get to pick 2 guys on defense, let's start with Beavers and Prophet Brown on defense. I think they've earned it. And then on offense, I'm going to go with Lake McCree and Killian O'Connor. You heard John Ray Reed talk about Killian if you watched last week's episode of USC, Locked on USC. He had a great quote. Second question. I mentioned Breck Kolojay in the B block. Question from James Dixon, 1878. He asked me a math question. Okay. No math is allowed on the show. Mark, how is it 247, the other one of the recruiting platforms, gave Kolojay a point value of 0.19? Can you explain what the point value is for a 3, 4, and 5-star player? 247 has USC's point total at 309. Yada yada yada. All right. So the end of his question about how do you get to these rankings, Mark? Can you tell me if this is correct, or is 24/7 trying to manipulate the team rankings to get Georgia their number one class ranking. James, I have no clue how these recruiting platforms do their calculations. I've been pretty clear about that. But it sounds like you have a better grasp of it than I do. You kind of break it down, what they say they do. Here's the thing. They're all different. Whether it's 247, ESPN, On3/Rivals, they all have different formulas, how they go about it. The bottom line is it's subjective. It's very opinionated. It's why I hate the star ranking system. It's whatever the formula is, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's a human being putting in the calculations. But I will say this: there is some bias involved with the evaluations, which I've also talked about on Locked On USC ad nauseum. So yeah, it is possible that 247 is kind of cooking the books, so to speak, to keep the South from starting another recruiting civil war. But overall, I don't know how they come up with these evaluations. Bottom line, just remember this every single time. Look at the programs that are recruiting you. That'll tell you how good of a player, how they're being evaluated. And then last week, on Friday's episode of Locked On USC, I did a segment on Jayden Mayaba. He talked about at USC's Media Day how he is using a neutral mindset. And the header for the show was stuck in neutral, because he said he wants to stay in a neutral mindset. Get it? Play on words. Stuck in neutral. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry I have to spell it out for some of you. Just kidding. But I did get a comment from Frunked Up, one of my everydayers. He said, Mark, picking apart each word a kid says without asking for clarification doesn't seem like great journalism. Mark, you seem to be reading into statements in ways I don't. Maybe you're right and I'm wrong, but I'd ask for clarification before I ran with the story publicly. As I mentioned last week in the episode, Jayden used the phrase neutral mindset, I think at least 5 times in the first 3 minutes of his press conference interview during USC's Media Day. And I even offered up some suggestions on what he meant, because he didn't really elaborate then, including, and I even said I think it's all about not letting his emotions get the better of him. Just, not getting too high, not getting too low, just staying in neutral. So I asked him after practice on Friday, I asked him 2 questions. I wanted him to elaborate. So Jayden told the media that he's engaging in a neutral mindset, right? And he's kind of using a stoic approach, less emotion. He doesn't want to have all those emotional ups and downs like he experienced in 2024. So when I said, how are you cultivating that neutral mindset? How are you getting there? He says, well, I've been reading this book by Tim Glover. It's about winning. He was recommended in fact, this book was recommended to him by Trumaine Carroll. And it's basically, it teaches, or it helps sports guys, deal with the ups and downs, how to become a winner. So no, I wasn't reading too much into it. I was reading into it exactly what I said. And Jayden kind of backed that up. And here's the bottom line. The reason why I brought it up as a topic is because if Lincoln Riley is going to look to his quarterback to be one of his team leaders, and those are Coach Riley's words, anybody who's going to play quarterback from him has to be a team leader. That's something he looks for. So when he didn't get invited to the big conference media days in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, it's up for conversation. So I gave my piece. Some of you didn't like the way I approached it, and that's fine. I wasn't attacking the young man. I was critiquing it. I was critiquing the situation, giving my opinion. But anything I ever say on the show about a player or a coach, it's never going to be disrespectful. And I'm going to use words that I would use right to their face. That's why I choose my words very carefully, because I will see them face to face. I will talk to them in an interview type of situation. I'm not like other guys out there who can say whatever they want, because they're not going to have that one-on-one type of environment with them. I do. So yes, that's my job. I try and do it in a respectful manner. But some of you need to understand, I'm not here to be a rah-rah. There'll be a time and place for me to be a rah-rah. You'll hear it in my voice. You'll know when I'm being a homer. But there's also times where I need to question things. That's my job. All right. You know what else is my job? Coming back here tomorrow with another episode of Locked on USC. I'll tell you about what I saw at practice and anything else that's coming up. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.